Perfect. Uh, Ritu, you may open your camera. Like if you have been settled down.
Yeah, okay. So everything is settled now?
Yeah, we are on live.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Hi.
Okay, hi everyone.
Yeah. Now you're clearly audible and visible.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
So first of all, uh, we are on live now with Madhur because it's showing static on my screen. Okay. Perfect. So hello everyone. Welcome to this session. We are back with another episode of Weekend of the Series. And guess what? This time we are having Ritu Srivastava, who's working as a DevOps engineer at Ericsson. And in this session, we are going to explore about the DevOps build. We will be, exploring the Ritu's journey, like how Ritu started, how was she able to manage in the DevOps journey, and we will be covering from A to Z. Okay, we will be covering your questions as well. So if you guys are having any doubts or if you're having a list of questions, you may drop in the chat box. Okay, we'll pick up from that, and we will answer one by one. Okay. Hello, Rutika.
Hello. Hi Ritu.
Yeah.
Hi all.
Hi Ritika.
Okay. So, Ritu, can you please explain, introduce yourself a little bit more to our audience?
Yeah, sure. So, okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Ritu Srivastava. I'm currently working in Ericsson. So, basically, I have done my graduation in engineering in electronics and communication branch. And yeah, after that, I took a on-campus job that is TCS. I've started TCS as in my career as a fresh start. So TCS has a long way for me because it's basically a very huge platform for as a fresher to learn each and everything and to start from the beginning, to think from where to start and discover your interest also. So I got many offers while on campus after my college, but I have chosen TCS just because of the sufficient time and the resources they put on the freshers and the loyalty they put. So that was the only thing I was impressed. So I joined TCS, and where basically as a student, almost 75% of the people actually don't know their interest, right?
Yeah.
So where to go, in which field they need to take their career. And maybe there is a confusion that okay, the students have mostly the most one point which is interesting and attractive for them is the money factor. So they always chase for the job which is lucrative, which is the first thing I believe that is not good. And that is the only thing that people just misguided by other. So money factor, I agree, that's important, but the most important thing is your interest, discovering your interest and in which field you want to grow, you want to take your career. And then after down the line you will realize that okay, that was the best decision I ever had. Because see, the job and the money is constant, is gonna be throughout your life. So first you have to start with discovering your interest. So in the thesis, over the period of time, like in the tenure of my 1.5 years there as a data engineer, I realized that the interest, my interest in IT, and how I got to pick those interests and where to start. So in thesis, I got plenty of time to think about it, as well as parallelly to work upon it on the technology. So what basically in the huge MNCs, what happens that project allocate to anyone, irrespective of their the knowledge.
Yeah.
Basically, it depend upon a resource manager, that anyone can put you in any project irrespective of your knowledge. So basically you have to start something from where the technology is already working. The technology is already there, you just need to pick that knowledge and you have to start. So I started as a data engineer there. I started gaining my knowledge in database, MySQL, and I started learning about Snowflakes, that is data warehouse. Then I switched to I got to know about the AWS cloud and the learning and the services there, and the useful sources for the data engineer. That's how I started. And then I realized that okay, these are good, these are huge. This data engine is a huge field, and the data said that I used to tackle that 7 billion records or 500 millions records we need to tackle each and every day with the team. And then I realized that okay, fine, this is good, I am good at it, but this is not my interest. This is not I cannot get having knowing something and doing something is two different
Totally
things.
different. Yeah, totally
Yeah,
different things. So
exactly,
they're
exactly. Knowing everything is fine, but doing with your own interest is completely different. You will
yeah,
get satisfaction when you know that this is my interest. So I started learning something different from data engineering, because IT is a sector where it has a huge scope of learning in any
lots of
field. Take
opportunities
it
are there. Yeah,
exactly. Take data engineer, DevOps, take it any field like data science and business analyst. There are a lot of opportunities. So there is not a constraint that you need to learn only this and you will have a lucrative job in the future also. You have to be updated in the private sector, in IT especially. So I expanded my skills in the different part, like okay, I am fine with the data. I now, right now I know how the data we need to deal and how it works. Now the next process is how this data is going to be used by the team, by development team, right? So after that I started my journey learning like Kubernetes. I started learning Kubernetes, that is orchestration tool, and then a Docker. Like I was very curious that how the application is getting deployed. Like there are many challenges people face, while deploying the application. So I started as an just out of curiosity and my interest, I started exploring the DevOps field. And then
okay.
I did certain certificates from the Udemy, which also recommend to people, that there is very good certification of Mumshad. Mumshad is the mentor. It's a
Yeah, I've also
very
heard that. Yeah,
yes,
he's well
that's a
known in this
very
field.
good. Exactly. That's a very good certificate, a decent certificate for any beginner to start. I have done that, and then it took my interest to the further level, next level. And then I continued my journey in the Docker and the Kubernetes, and then and I was searching for the job for respective field, because since now this DevOps role got my interest. So fortunately, I got calls from the recruiters for the next role, and since the DevOps is related to the the cloud technology,
Yeah,
it also we can use this technology to deploy through clouds, and I had interest in clouds, so I started giving interviews, and then I switched to the best part is I switched to Ericsson as my second company in this June 2020 to 2022, and I got to know more about the DevOps role. I was not very aware of the DevOps role. I was very comfortable with the data engineer role, so I directly talked to my manager. And the second learning here is always talk to your manager regarding your interest. If it doesn't matter if you will get or not, but at least talk, communicate your interest with your manager, because anything he can do it, either say no, or either the worst part is when you will not ask, the answer will always be no. So better
yeah,
is communicate your interest with the manager, so that at least he will be knowing your interest and the aspiration, and then he will channelize on skills and knowledge to the particular project. So I talked to my manager, and sometimes it's very good to have a clear cut conversation and your aspiration with a manager. I decided to go with the DevOps. So he actually gave a very basically there are many applications we need to develop. DevOps. Okay, now this is my journey regarding it from 2020 to 2022, and now let me start with the DevOps. Like why DevOps, right? So
yeah,
basically, in DevOps is a blend of development and the operation. It is a continuous cycle of improvement. you have developed some idea, your requirement, you implement it, you test it, code it, and then you deployed it to the particular server. Now your job is to monitor that operation part comes into the platform, that you need to monitor the application every time, you need to maintain and monitor. So suppose if, for example, anytime if the server will get down, then you have to be very focused and you have to be very alert that, oh, okay, so that the application cannot crash. So the job of the DevOps engineer is, require a lot of focus and activeness. You need to be alert regarding to your application. So basically, now why DevOps is a very lucrative job, because it involves a various IT jobs. It involves a various job. For example, development. You are developing the particular application with the code. You are testing it, so the tester role is here. You are now deploying it, so that the deployment part, like while releasing the application, is important. So now here the operation part is coming into consideration. So it involves a four various job profile in the DevOps, and it requires a lot of interest. First of all, interest, and the second thing is your communication. You have to communicate to each and every team, so that your application runs smoothly, right? So that's the DevOps role. And let me tell you, it has a broad term. The most buzzy word here in the IT industry, and the job is DevOps only. Now in the coming future, there will be 46% of the jobs in the IT sector would be DevOps. That is for sure. Because see, how it happens, the most difficult to define then set boundaries in DevOps is not very limited. It has a very broad scope. So basically, let me start with the journey from application development and deployment. So basically, how it happens, you're developing an app, and now your job is to deliver this app to a user, right? So the journey between the developing an app and delivering to the user is huge, involves a lot of people, team, and time and efforts. So I have prepared a little few slides on this.
Yeah,
Shall I share
that
my
would be great.
screen?
Yeah, that would be great.
Uh,
Yeah.
okay. So I'm sharing my screen. Um, okay, so this is my screen. Let me know if you guys able to see this.
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay.
It's perfect. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, that was my overall overview on the DevOps, that application release process and the challenges that DevOps tries to solve, and what is DevOps principle, and why the DevOps as a separator, and what is his task and the responsibility. So my next move will be, first of all, DevOps role does not require any background. I myself, as a data engineer, started as a data engineer, and now I'm doing as a DevOps role in the next company. So it does not require any particular learning, particular thing that you should have to be from this background, from any background people, for any profile, system admin, developer, tester, network, non-IT, any people can start a role, start a profile in a DevOps engineer. It just require consistency. That's all. And now the second part is, let me tell you the process, how it happens. Suppose I think wait, just give me a moment.
Yeah, sure.
I think so the challenges part would be up.
Okay, so as per you, like DevOps domain does not require any predefined prerequisites, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
So
Those who are thinking to take a step into the DevOps journey, so he or she may take that freely without
exactly
invitation or yeah,
exactly, you just
without
need
thinking
to
a
be,
minute.
yes, you just need to be you just need to be aware with the skills that is required. For example, I'll tell you in the later section.
Yeah,
Let me
sure.
start with this challenges, what we face as a challenge. So as a beginner also, the challenges is to starting a app and now delivering app. So it requires it requires many application, many modules to release to the users. So once I'm using an application, I should not face any bugs in on any downtime, any server downtime. I should not face these as a user. So the role, the DevOps role is to take care of all these issues, operations. So the restriction, first of all, the roadblocks and the frictions that come into part is like slowing down the process. It requires too much effort. These are the challenges, errors slipping through. For example, you're not communicating well with your team, the developers. Sometimes it may happen. I think I have included this in my next PDF, in my next slot
Right.
also. So
Yeah.
yeah, this is basically what happened. The first challenge is miscommunication and lack of collaboration. What happens is, develop sometimes I was myself a developer in the thesis, and we need to make the changes according to the business requirement, and now we need to deploy and make the documentation of it, so that the deployment team get a documented part to deploy an application. Because a deployment team may or may not know the how the application works, and how what is the operation and the requirements to handle this application. So you always have to communicate first, make a well detailed documentary, and you have to communicate. So the challenges may people face while in this role is miscommunication and lack of collaboration. Suppose a developer here is developed some code and having a piece of code, and now the operation team have no interest to knowing the code. He just wanted to deploy the application and monitor it. So then when the miscommunication happen, it takes a lot of time to release an application. It might take even more than a month. So that is the big challenge that a DevOps might face. So the second is, conflict of interest. These are my personal opinion that I myself faced in my tenure in Ericsson right now. So that is the second thing is conflict of interest, where the responsible of development is very high. The developers might do any changes, like any piece of code, any changes, and they will expect that the application is running, but the deployment team, the operation team, must be ensured that the changes should not affect the previous version. So
Yeah.
there
That's
are
the most important part, I guess.
exactly. So suppose there is a requirement for the change, so the operation team will not always take part, that if we need to change the entire code or
Yeah.
entire development or entire wrapper file. There is a term in the DevOps field, that is wrapper file. Any changes that we need to deploy, we always have to change a particular thing, and we just copied the file. The copied version file is a wrapper file there. So we make the changes in the wrapper file. So that is the second challenge we always face, that conflict of interest. Suppose the developer has just a job to make the changes according to the business requirement. He doesn't care about how many server we need to check, how many certificates we need to create. Because while deploying an application, there is a particular firewall, there is a particular protocol that need to follow while in deploying an application. For example, I have developed a code. Now it should be deployed in a particular server. So that server, that license, that firewalls, everything should be taken care of by the operation team. So that operation team will never want to have that whole changes in the entire code. So that is the conflict of interest that happens between us, in between the people. So at this time, this job becomes sometimes very repetitive and very time consuming sometimes. So you have to be very proactively communicate with the developer as well. That is the most you can do. Now the next thing is, there is a particular process while having a generating an idea. As I mentioned, that you had a you code it, test it. So it requires a particular, job roles also, as a tester, as a coder, as a deployment team, as a operation, so system administration. This require a lot of role inside the DevOps. So these are the things in the DevOps is a whole package. It's a combination of development and operation. That's why we said that DevOps. So it requires, suppose you have deployed any application into a public server, and now the configuration requirement is very, very far, like installing tools, deploy application. Configuration part takes time. It requires a better clearance that okay, this piece of code will not run to the particular server. So this is the typical software release process. This is the initial launch, I would say. And the second thing that is important is the technology while you're using. See, suppose you are developed an application and you are using a very third grade technology that takes a lot of time. A lot of time in deployment means lot of time in releasing the application, and this process always takes a lot of time when we use the previous version of any tools. So better there is a particular latest tool actually I've added here in DevOps. I might introduce this in later. The most important, yeah, this is the most important slide, I would say, because see, what would you do in the initial launch? You have code, you have tested, and you build the package, and you have deployed it. And now, once you have developed the application, your second job is to update it again and again. Any new idea, any new feature, you are adding it again and again. So it involves a continuous delivery, continuous innovation. You need to think. For example, let's take a very recent, very famous product that we all are using, that is Instagram. So Instagram, suppose Instagram releases their app. Now it is adding new features. For example, they have added stories, they have added reels. So these are the new features they are adding without disturbing the entire Instagram products, right? So this is the quick delivery in the product. It actually the process requirement should be very quick, so that the user cannot be affected, and so that their revenue should not be affected. So in this we improve the versions. While improving the versions, the DevOps comes into a consideration, that they take care of the entire code without disturbing the previous one. That is the changes, the quick changes and delivering to the user is very much important. So that this is the three things that happens. For example, you have launched a product. So the changes in the entire product will count here in the major. That's, for example, suppose you have developed any new app. So the app will be here major like 1.0.0, because you have just introduced new app. So the changes would be nothing, like minor, not patch. And the second version, how would the second version would be? Second version, suppose if you're adding a Reels version in the Instagram. So the second version, the name of the product will be Instagram 1.1.0, because you have added a minor changes. And now the patch would be something like changing the name, like changing the Instagram name. Suppose it becomes something Instagram. So there is a very little change, the change that comes in the patch. So that is how the name of the product version or name of the product we introduce in the later section. This is the process, like major, minor, and the patch. Suppose Kubernetes 1.2.0. This is the 1.2.0 version. It means that there is the second minor changes that happened with the Kubernetes. I hope you all guys have heard about the Kubernetes. This is the orchestration tool. So, let me introduce the tools we use in the DevOps, right? So the second thing is, these are the tools, particular tools. It's not very important to know each and every tools. Again, I'm saying, but there is a particular standard tools that you have to use, So for example, see, development automation mainly require code hosting, like for example, artifact repository. You need to maintain a particular code in something, So that's why we use Git and GitHub. And there is a Jenkins tool to improve Jenkins, where we deploy the application. This is the very important tools, standard tools. Now in the test automation, it introduced like automated testing. For these are the tools like mirror warehouse, VMware is a client tool where everybody have to, it's another client tool where it is another virtual machine, you can say. So it is a private server nexus. Now the container. What is the container? Container, basically you have developed an application and there is a particular package. And that package is named as a container. You are running the application in a particular container. Now, handling all those container, there should be an orchestration tool, which is Kubernetes. For example, suppose you have having a big cruise and there is a little board over there in the cruise. Now you don't know where to how to run, where, in the direction, the roll back, everything will be taken care of by the orchestration tool, that is Kubernetes. Suppose once time your pod got down, pods got down, sometime your container will get failed, so everything will be taken care of by Kubernetes. It monitor everything, your pods, your container. So orchestration tool Kubernetes is very much important. Nowadays Kubernetes is also taking care of the role of the Docker, but still it is work, the company is working on it, Docker companies. So now the second thing is scripting language. There's a particular language you can use like C++, but I would suggest that always go with the latest one, so Python is very important and very latest and readable language I would suggest to learn everybody, like a scripting language as in Python. You can go ahead with the previous languages also, the anything like Java and C++, but the Python would be the best to start with. The second will be as a log management. You can use ELK. That is very common tool, that cat and sanitary, where you use the Linux command. You use the Linux different commands, and then ninth is load balancer. Load balancer is name enough, like maintaining the trafficking, maintaining the server traffic, that there should be a load balancer in the app. So we always introduce the Nginx. This is very important. Now, sorry, so the gateway part is, now your application has introduced and now it needs a privacy, a private privacy virtual network. So we always introduce a gateway through a Kong. This is a very very decent service. Kong you can use, and the product UI and diagram should be used in the Blue Lake. It is particularly specific section. This is not a standard tool, but still if you want to learn about it, you can go with the Kong for a for a firewall gateway. And the second is, like, the last most important is Confluence. Confluence basically a very important, a very normal tool as a documentation. Like your company projects always maintain a documentary part, and that document always maintain in Confluence. It's a very nice tool. Every project will use, and it is using also. You guys will also use this Confluence. It is a documentation, preparing that documentation, everything is actually in detail will be maintained in the Confluence. So Confluence is a very nice tool to maintain the records. And the last is like allow or push to the work group, means you are communicating with the team, you are putting an alarm. That's not a tool, but that's a main part agenda of the have, as a DevOps role, you have to take care the communication part. So that is the main tools I have displayed here. You can go with the as a beginner. So
sorry to interrupt you, Ritu.
No problem.
For a beginner, like these 12 tools that you have mentioned here. So for out of these tools, like a beginner can start with like any particular number of tools, like
yes. So Yes, so the standard tool must be, you have, first of all, you have to go with the scripting language. You must know one programming language at least. So I always suggest go with the Python because it's very
Okay.
easy and readable. The
Yeah.
second thing is container part. It is where the, since you have a application ready, and now you wanted to deploy, you want this application to run in every machine irrespective of the coder. You want this application to run in the user machine also. So that we make a package back in which our application deployed. The whole package is called a container, a Docker, where the everything is like any pack, like modules, every wrapper files is maintained in a Docker as a container.
Yeah.
And the third tool is orchestration tool is Kubernetes. It is very important, and the at most important most important tool it play in the DevOps role. The fourth is GitHub. You should know the Git, like implementing the code and pushing the changes into something. You always require a very nice terminal, that is GitHub. We push the code, we pull the code through GitHub. So GitHub is very also important. And then Nginx basically, you will get a module, you will be very familiar with. You will have this knowledge later on, but these four tools I would suggest to always start with: GitHub,
Okay.
Docker, Kubernetes, and
Kubernetes.
any scripting language,
Okay.
Python,
And
etc.
one more question from our
Yeah.
user. Like, what do you
Yeah,
mean when
please.
you say orchestration tool?
Okay, so basically orchestration. Suppose you're having your application in a small chunk, and like there is a code in a small. Suppose there is a server, there is a separate server, there's a separate module, there is a separate wrapper file. Everything is separately. You are able to run the application in your laptop because you have developed it. You have
Yeah.
particular configuration, that's why you are able to run the application. Now you want this application to the user to run this in their machine, and that time your user may or might not have that configuration. So what we do, we make a package, we make a particular package that this application will run in this package. Just install this package. So the particular package is always installed in a container. Now suppose there are various application you have in the container, like one container, two, three, four. Now these container, for example, you are running an application, and in application one there is a downtime in the server. And then now in the application tool, you have something issue with the trafficking, something like load balancer, when load balancer is not able to uh, play his job. So what it do, the different application is running in the different container, right? So maintaining those container at one time is always played by the orchestration tool, that is Kubernetes. For example, basically it is handling the different and multiple container at one time, is always taken care by the Kubernetes itself. For example, in one application there is a server downtime, then it will check, it will monitor immediately, it will monitor okay, there is a downtime in the container one. Then it will create a new server immediately. So sorry. So basically it monitor and handle the each and every multiple application, in multiple container by the Kubernetes itself. Suppose there is a ship, and there is a captain, right? So captain is a machine, and now that handle, that gear you use, right, to make a direction. So okay, you need to go there, you need to go. That is why Kubernetes comes into play, that it handle the different containers in a different manner. Like suppose uh, there is a module failure, there is a version that comes, but it not able to make the pods, it's not able to like creating a wrapper file. So that into that monitor and the everything handled by the Kubernetes itself. It will immediately develop immediately develop a container. It will immediately develop a pods and the wrapper files, the changes in the wrapper files. It will intimate the developer as well that since there is a problem with the container one, please go and check it. So that
Okay.
monitor is done by the orchestration tool Kubernetes.
Okay. I guess it must be the satisfying answer. He must be satisfied with his answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, guys, I would like to introduce the main, the tools and the latest tool that everybody should use. Since I have already introduced in the previous slide, and the next slide, I would suggest that the concept you should know how to start as a DevOps role, right? So you have to go with the particular certification. Always go with the particular certification and have some fundamentals clear from there. For example, I would suggest that Munshad is a better mentor there. So start with the Dev concept, that how it is using and how the application runs, the certificate, the security issues. Now go with the CI/CD. CI/CD basically you are continuous integrating it, you are continuous delivering it. There is a continuous changes in the feature and you are developing it into the production. So for the CI/CD, there is a Jenkins tool. The most important and the most famous cloud provider is AWS. AWS is a huge platform, and we can go with the JCP as well as the third Azure also. But why AWS? Because I have been working in AWS, and there is there's a familiarity and the naming convention. I would suggest that this is very easy to remember the by their names. So I started my journey in the cloud as in AWS itself. Although I have worked in many GCP and Azure also, but I would choose the AWS. Would be very easy to communicate with the customer team also if there is any problem in your service. So AWS is best. And the orchestration tool is Kubernetes, as I've said. The scripting language is Python, and the monitoring tool, there is a various monitoring tool. You can use that there is a tool that is Apache Airflow. It is a very good monitoring tool. The version control, I have already told that GitHub is very important. And in the network and security, that does not play much role, but while working in the as a DevOps engineer, you will get to know that the network and security, there is no need to study separately about the networking and security. So this is you can give the priority 3, I would give. And priority 1, you will go always with the Dev concept, CI/CD, containers, orchestration, monitoring, AWS like cloud providing, Linux basic. You have to know the scripting language, and then at last you go with the networking and the security. So that would be the organized arrangement that you will go with the tools. Now let's go with the why you should choose as a DevOps. Why DevOps? Since I've already mentioned that DevOps roles actually involves a lot of various roles. For example, as a developer, SDE, as a tester, as an operation tools, as a system administration. It involves all part of 3 or 4 profiles in one role. So that's why this job becomes lucrative as in DevOps. And in software development lifecycle, what happens that there's a methodology we follow. We communicate with people with different team. We have a different approach. We make a continuous delivering. We make a continuous changes and quick changes in the production, so that it involves a continuous innovation, and the creativity is always there in the DevOps. That's why I have choose DevOps, because there is a creativity. I find myself there is a lot of challenging part that I need to solve, or I have a better opportunity to be creative at this field. That's why I've also chosen the DevOps role. And the third thing is it provide a definite career path to guarantee steady growth. Like you cannot have a sudden growth, a sudden jump in your curve, but it has a steady growth, but a consistency required. This is very important, that once you stop learning about the new version application, you'll not be able to deploy the application in the particular release time, right? So this is the only, these three are the only factor I have chosen the role as in DevOps. And this just because this has many future, this has many scope in the future as well, because since it make you creative and innovative all the time, you need to think about all the time and maintain your application. So that's why I've chosen this. And I would suggest that always, first of all, always go with your interest, discover your interest as a student, and then go with the particular profile, because you have to earn throughout your life, but know your interest is at most important. So always go with your interest. My interest was continued in the DevOps. That's why I joined as a DevOps. I started my journey as a data engineer, but I continued in DevOps, and I'm really enjoying it. And let's see how it goes, because you have to earn basically to fulfill your basic needs, but you have to be clear why do you need this. The why part is important. So yeah, so that is the only suggestion for you guys. Anything else, any question that I can clear, since
Yeah,
I've covered
one
almost
question.
thing.
One question from our user. Like, how
Yes.
about Azure DevOps?
Okay, so just give me a moment.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so why DevOps, right?
Yeah, how about the Azure? I think
Azure.
he's talking. Yeah, Azure DevOps.
Azure DevOps. Okay, so basically DevOps it comes with the cloud technology also. You have to involve with the cloud services, right? So there are particular cloud service that is famous and huge in a huge use in every company, like AWS cloud, GCP cloud, and the third is Microsoft Azure cloud. It Azure is a Microsoft name of
Yeah.
the cloud from the Microsoft. So Azure DevOps, like there is a particular role in there is a particular service. The basically their work is same, but the naming convention, the speed, the optimization process of the particular service of the particular cloud is different. That is why um Azure developers go with the services that is available in the Microsoft service. We can Azure develop cannot, go with the AWS. Once they know the service, once they know the basic use of the service, they can use the other cloud services also as well. But as if you are using the Azure as your cloud, then always go with the Azure. Because always go with the Microsoft
AWS.
Azure.
Okay.
Yes, Microsoft Azure, because since you are using the Azure technology, and you can switch to the other technology unless you are not very cleared with the basic fundamentals. Right. For example, for example, let's take an example. There is a storage bucket. In the AWS, there is a name that cloud of the cloud storage is SS, simple storage. And in Azure, there is name is cloud, simple cloud storage. So working is the same. Working is storing the objects, right? But the naming is different. So when you will know the fundamental work of particular service, there will be no issue if whether you are using Azure cloud or AWS or GCP cloud. So
Okay,
yeah,
that's great.
always
So,
clear with this service, always clear with the working of the service, right? So you will
okay.
be comfortable to switch to any cloud.
Okay. So basic requirement is knowing about how it is working. Right?
Exactly, the you should know the fundamentals.
Fundamentals.
Then then you'll be comfortable to switch to any cloud, whether it is AWS, GCP, IBM, or Azure.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So another question is from, it is linked with the previous one about the orchestration tool. He's asking, like, so does it mean that Docker just hold the apps and packages, and it's the orchestration tool which acts like a manager, controlling the flow and maintenance in and out?
Right. So
So
that
yeah,
sorry, is that a question? Like that's a statement,
he's
right?
confirming. Yeah, he's
Okay.
confirming.
Okay, yeah, that's you got me right, guys. The orchestration tool basically handle and monitoring your particular containers, each and every multiple containers at once. For example, let's take an example of our day-to-day life. For example, you are at home and you have 5 members in your family, right? And the particular family have their own time, their own functioning. Everything is different. So the head of the department, the head of the house, or you can say, is your parent, right? Your parents are handling your children. So the parent, the handling the multiple children, is what the Kubernetes do. Kubernetes handle the particular multiple containers, multiple application at one time. So that is the huge job orchestration tool does.
Okay, that's perfect. So I think the other questions, no, yeah, is satisfied with your answer. Okay, so like
Okay.
it's already 45 minutes, but let's conclude the session. Like any
Yeah.
single piece of advice that you want to give to those who are beginner level or intermediate level learners in DevOps domain. Like as
Yeah.
you said, the communication is the biggest part with the developer
Hmm.
team as well as the those who are
Operation
deploying
team.
operational
Hmm.
team. Yeah.
Hmm.
So any single piece of advice from your side?
Yeah, so I would suggest, see, start always first, and the foremost thing I will always repeat is find your interest.
Yeah.
If you're going to work in IT sector, just find your interest. Whether you want to do as a job in data engineering, data, if you want to play with the data, huge data, go with the data engineering. If you have an interest to predict the future with data, then go with the data scientist. I'm not saying just restrict your learning to something, just expand your learning at the beginner as much as possible. In within Take as much time within 1 year or within 2 year, but just expand your learning. Now third thing is go with the web development also. Go do some real time project and have some learning, and then discover your interest, that no, this is going good. So the first thing is discover interest and then choose a career path. Second is, if you're choosing DevOps role, always go with the fundamentals clear from a particular site or from an organized course, and the Udemy is the best platform as a beginner at a cheapest cost. So I would suggest go with the some particular courses in the Udemy and have some certification, decent certification. Then third thing is learn the when while after learning the Kubernetes fundamentals, go with the exam, a certified exam from the Kubernetes itself. There is a exam particular that have actually a scope to show to the recruiter or to other company that yes, I've done something officially and I have master on it. So go with this official certifications. Fourth thing is always do in a practical. Do not go with the theoretical part. In fact, do not rely to the theoretical part. Always go with the practical part. While learning, do side by side, like activate your free account. There is a AWS provide free account, GCP also does, and Azure does. So always go with the practical also. Develop simple application. For example, you have developed a static website, and now you want this website to run to each and every machine. So do a simple real lifetime based project. And always fourth thing is always maintain your project in a particular documentation. For example, a repository, that is GitHub is the best to show your,
Yeah.
as a fresher, to show anybody to the next company, or as your own record, that yes, I have started from this and I have come so far. So that documentation part is very important. So always maintain this protocol, like start discovering interest. Second thing is start with the fundamentals, do courses, different courses. decent courses, have some certifications, official certification that have some value. And the fourth part is always maintain a document in some repository so that you can also explain those things to the tech team also while giving interviews. So these things actually basically help me to switch from a data engineer to a DevOps roles. So there is nothing that new, or there is nothing uncommon that I am going to share. These are the only common rules that people basically miss. The important thing is their interest. So this is the first thing: find your interest, be determined, and go with the flow.
Okay. So, first of all, thank you so much, Ritu, for pointing out this first point, finding your interest. I think
Yeah,
that's the
just
most
discover.
important part that the upcoming
Ev-
engineers, they are basically looking
exactly.
for the packages as daily roles.
Exactly. This is the
They just
only, actually, I have also seen the same thing that as a student, everybody is fantasized with the lucrative jobs,
yeah,
that the money factor, oh God, I'm going to have the placement of 10 LPA. And what will do with the 10 LPA after 2, 3, 4, or 10 years
yeah,
down the line? What will
yeah,
you do? You will get bored, you will get frustrated, don't want to do job. So better find your interest. If even if it is taking 1 year or 2 year to find your discover your interest, go with your interest first. Discover it, because you have to earn throughout your life. Yeah, you just
yeah,
go. So that's why this is the very important factor.
yeah. I think they have limited themselves in a particular domain, like as the
Exactly.
role.
Hmm.
They forget there are lots of domain in the computer science, including cybersecurity, AI,
Hmm.
machine data analyst. Lots of opportunities are
Exactly.
there, but they are just limited to some SDA sheets and such
Exactly.
kind of thing.
Yes, I would suggest just expand your learning according to
Yeah,
your capacity. Just not always do not restrict yourself to a particular technology or particular skills. Even if you want to switch, even if you want to go with the something, for example, a data science role. So start from the beginning, because in data science is kind of umbrella where
yeah,
data analyst, data engineering, business analyst, every role comes under it. The data scientist always should know everything. As
right,
an
right. Yeah,
analyst, as an engineer, they should know the data mining, they should know the transformation, they should know the cleaning part. So expand your skills. Do not restrict your skills. That would be
yeah.
the second suggestion.
Those who are watching this session, those who will be watching in the future, I think they will be thanking you for pointing out and mentioning this point. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
thank you. Yeah, thank you
yeah,
so much. Yeah, this is the
and
most important thing, because I have done the same thing. That's why I don't know. I don't want to make other people to make the same mistake. The
yeah.
guiding is very important. So that is the only learning I have learned so far.
So one last question.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
are you taking any classes for beginners
For
regarding DevOps?
beginners.
Yeah,
Okay, so actually, I haven't. Frankly speaking, I haven't started, but I take mentorship session as in day to day. Is if people want to take guide from me from a particular topic or for a
yeah,
particular field, so I just take mentorship session. I haven't thought about it like. Starting in classes as a beginner, but
yeah.
I would love to do. I would love to expand my knowledge to other people, as in starting a new classes or something. I'll definitely work on it. I'll think about it.
Okay,
Thanks for pointing out you.
that would be great. That would be great for the DevOps learners.
Yeah, sure, I would think about it. I'll work on it. Sure.
Okay, perfect. So I think it's all about the today's session. We have already uh, exposed lot of detailing, lots of aspect on the DevOps tools. And thank you so much, Ritu. Like the personalities like
Yeah,
you, those who have coming to the
pleasure.
engineer have
Pleasure
platform
to
and
be here.
sharing their experiences, journey. It will be help. It will not help only the recent or the current engineers. It's going to help the upcoming engineers who will take lessons from your journey. Like in this session, you have mentioned about discovering your interest, covering all the tools, all the A to Z things about the DevOps domain. So yeah, you guys are making a change in the
Thank you.
in
Pleasure
the
to be here. Thank you guys for connecting with me. I would
yeah
love to share my knowledge and journey and experiences as well. So
yeah
yeah,
yeah.
thank you
Thank you
everyone.
thank you so much for joining this session and making it successful. Okay, and it's like मुझे बहुत कुछ सीखने को मिला and जो देख रहे हैं उन्हें भी obviously काफी कुछ सीखने को मिला होगा.
Definitely,
So yeah
definitely. So
yeah. Thank you.
I really wish everyone just take as much time as possible to discover your interest and go with your interest and expand your journey. There is no limitation. You know, sky is
Yeah
the only limit. You must have heard. There is
yeah
a plenty of sources in the internet. You can start from anywhere, right? From any point. You know, so
yeah. Right.
never hesitate to learn. Just have a consistency there.
Perfect. Perfect.
That's
So, okay, that's all about today's session, guys. Thank you for joining us, and thank you,
Thank
Ritu.
you,
Thanks
everyone.
again. Thanks
Thank
again.
you.
Yeah. Mother, you may end the live session.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Bye. Have a good day.
Bye bye.